one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Can you call that?
Katie?
Here.
Patterson?
Here.
Trustee Glade?
Here.
Supervisor Glade?
Here.
Lazier?
Here.
Chant?
Here.
As we approve the agenda, I'm going to make one slight modification addition, and that is under, let's call it 3A, approval of a temporary clerk. One of the board members, just for purposes of conducting this meeting, as we have no clerk or deputy clerk. So I'm going to suggest we appoint Trustee Shant as our temporary clerk, and Scott Cameron will be a recording secretary that will perform those duties. With that
Support.
addition, I'll ask for a motion.
Support? I'll make the motion.
Moved, supported. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We'll open up this meeting to brief public comments. Anybody wishing to come forward, please do at this time. Seeing none, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda, which is the purpose of our meeting, of course, is to fill a vacancy in the clerk's position that is a result of our former clerk having retired, leaving that vacancy. We have 4 candidates who have applied for the position, and 3 of which will be here tonight. And just by way of format, we will allow each candidate to come up and present themselves to us, and then the board will be able to address the candidates and proceed from there. I'm going to suggest we simply go by alphabetical order, if that suits everybody. Seems to be the fairest. That would be Trustee Katie, if you'd like to begin. Maybe just take the podium.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jeremy Cady. I lived in Huron Township for 29 of my 31 years. As you know, I'm a township trustee. I was elected in November of 2016. I applied to fill in the remainder of the time period between now and the special election for township clerk. I can go over briefly just my work history. I graduated in 2004 from Huron High School. Immediately after graduation, I went to work for Fairlane Ford in Dearborn as a service technician, working on Ford Lincoln Mercury vehicles, doing warranty repair and front door repair from customers. I left there in, it would be September of 2008. I became employed with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. I've been a state certified deputy sheriff for over 10 years now. I've owned and operated 2 businesses. The first one was Black Label Computers. I owned that from 2010 to 2012. I sold that for a profit. I currently own Credit Rehab LLC. I've owned that and operated that since February of 2015. I handle the day-to-day operations, client retention, client recruitment, pretty much everything from A to Z there. And then in 2013, I was elected to my police union's executive board as the first vice president. From there, I was able in 4 years to reduce the overall operating budget by around 35% in my first year. I was an executive supervisor for 35 employees, 4 legal staff, 2 secretarial, and a little bit over 26 alternate and chief union reps. I represented the membership at every level from some discipline, contractual grievances, negotiation. I was on the executive board and on the negotiating committee. We were the only union in Wayne County to settle a contract during the consent decree rather than, I shouldn't say the only, we were the first to settle rather than get imposed on under the consent decree by the state. I was able to get around a 10% raise in 2 years for my membership. As it pertains to the clerk job, I did receive some specialty training when I was the union rep from the Wayne County clerk, just because of the record retention that the union has an obligation to fulfill because we represent public employees. I did get a few certifications, the American Academy of Actuaries for Pension Administration and Reform. I was trained by the county clerk in record management, online record database management, and managing the life cycle of secure and sensitive information. So as you can imagine with police records and personnel files, it's that type of stuff. I did get trained by the U.S. National Archives for verification form requirements, submission, and approval. So that would be basically how to detect fraudulent verification forms such as signature sheets, affidavits, any type of legal binding document that can be used in court. I was trained on how to detect fake notaries, fake signatures, digitized signatures being reprinted, things like that. And then I did go to school at Wayne State for labor management, HR. Dr. Barbara Patrick, if you don't know who that is, she's pretty nationally known for her labor relations and human resources courses. I did complete a few of hers, economics for workers, leading a diverse organization, grievance handling, and employee management. Aside from that, I put in to be appointed to this position because I do have a pretty good institutional knowledge of the township government and how the township works. I do like the path that our former clerk went through to get the records digitized and make it more streamlined for the residents, and I'd like to continue doing that. I would also like to work on streamlining our FOIA processes, just so we can get a resident from point A to point B a lot quicker and with a lot less hassle. I do believe that the continuation of digitizing a lot of the township documents and making them available online, such as building permits, the various day-to-day things that a lot of residents have to come to the township hall to do, I would like to get that all digitized, kind of follow suit with how Treasurer Lazier is moving her office more towards digital and online for payments and things like that. I'd like to open it up for any questions that anybody might have. Yes, sir.
I have a couple, Jeremy. And these certainly are questions I could have asked you at any time, but I felt tonight,
No problem.
in fairness to all candidates, all questions should be asked tonight. But
Sure.
so under your resume, on your resume rather, you indicate Wayne State University Labor Relations / Human Resources 2014. Is that a degree from Wayne State University, or is that course
No,
taken?
that's when I started, 2014.
Okay.
So since it would have been January of this year, I stopped going to school just because of work and personal stuff. So I have about, I want to say.
So there's
8
4 or 5 classes listed at Wayne State. Those are the classes that you're referencing in the.
Correct. Them are the ones I've
education.
already completed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
them are the ones I have on the transcripts.
And then one other question, Jeremy, just for my clarification, was there certification? You didn't list anything for as far as police officer under certifications and specifications.
Yeah.
Is that?
There's 2 of them. There's the Michigan Sheriff Coordinating Training Council certification, and then there's the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards.
Is there a graduation from a police academy that normally is there or not?
Yeah,
There-
2008.
Okay, 2008?
Yep.
Okay, that's.
I was hired in October, and we finished right around December, because I was about 3 weeks into it when the county hired me. So,
Okay. As a sworn officer?
correct.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Katie? If not, thank you. Marlene Kraus?
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. I am a lifelong resident here in Township. I've worked for the Township as far as police and fire. I've had certifications in that through the state of Michigan for lean. I've also, on the fire department side, took classes and was an instructor and taught in schools and churches and Township Fire Department for reinserts on CPR. Also, I have worked in the accounting department when they were shorthanded doing bill list. They had an employee off. I've worked in the clerk's office helping on elections. I've worked the actual elections at the polls and in AVs. And I've also done the receiving boards when the election is all over. And I understand the importance of the clerk's office. Basically, that is the keeper of all records. And things have to be kept private that can't be released. And they have to be released in a proper way. I understand all of that. I would be willing to get any certifications that I would need, that I don't have for that position. I would look forward to serving the township and the residents and working with this board. Do you have any questions?
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila Minton?
It's Shaylin.
Shayla, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not an easy name. I am a Huron resident. I graduated from Huron High School. I am currently going for a business degree with a minor in accounting. I volunteer with the Huron CERT team. I currently work at Malek Al Kebab as a waitress. It's a Middle Eastern restaurant. And I also work with the Monroe County EOC as a social media specialist. I am proficient in Microsoft Word and Excel. I'm very flexible, communicative, and I have a lot of experience with customer service.
And you're a member of the CERT team?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. It's a good program, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually the youngest member who's applied to it. I started when I was 11.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Minton? Thank you.
I have one question. Your degree program will be completed when? Or, not that it's one of our requirements, I'm just curious as to how close you are.
I just started because I just graduated in 2017. I'm doing it part-time while I am working. So I hopefully will get it done within the next 5 to 6 years.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, our fourth candidate, Carol Lorraine, you have her resume and materials, of course. She was not able to be here this evening. She had a previously already planned vacation out of state, much warmer and less snow than we have here. And as all of you know, this meeting was kind of very quick to put together and given the set of circumstances, so she wasn't able to plan for it nor accommodate this in her travel plans. So I think that satisfies why she's not here this evening. So just the important, it's not for lack of interest or effort, just she's not in state. So just wanted the board to recognize that. Okay. So that entertains our candidates. Trustee Glavin?
At this time, I would like to make a motion so we can have discussion. My motion would be for the clerk vacancy to be filled by Carol Lorraine.
Okay. Got a motion? Got a second on the motion? For discussion, I'll second that motion. We can open up the meeting to board comments regarding the candidates at this point. Colleen?
Yeah, I did have a conversation with Kara, and according to what I was reading, and maybe I'm wrong, she would, if we appointed her, she would have to resign her position as the building department director. And with that, then her pay would be cut. And I asked if she understood that, and she felt that she didn't have to resign her position, that she would just do both positions, and that we would probably pay her a stipend to do that other position. Now, according to what I was reading, and I didn't bring it with me, in the book, was that you can't hold two of those offices at the same time because one's on one side of a union, one's on the other side, and they're both a supervisory position.
Kevin, would you like to address that?
You cannot hold two public positions. That basically she could not be the operations manager and the township clerk as well. She'd have to resign one or the other.
Right.
Any other comments regarding?
So with her not being here, I don't know if she,
I have a comment if I could follow up. That's something I was not aware of, but in terms of qualifications, there's no question. However, I would assume that if Ms. Lorraine was aware of that situation, she would have withdrawn her application and her interest in the position. To my knowledge, that hasn't occurred. I don't know if supervisor received anything, or anybody else has, but
I guess what we
know.
could do is go based on, her application, her stated desire for the position. She hasn't stated anything to the contrary. In terms of our candidates, I think they all bring something unique to the position. As I see it, what we're trying to do here is fill a vacancy for the clerk's position for a temporary time until the next election. As such, one of the roles and responsibilities of that individual will be to conduct an election. And with a wide variety of skill sets that our applicants have, Ms. Lorraine is the only one who is accredited to run elections, who's served as a deputy clerk and has administered elections in the past. So, we're kind of even though we're in a position where we're at a loss for a clerk at the moment, we're actually in a unique position in that we have someone on staff who's been an employee for a number of years, who's actually served as deputy clerk, is accredited to run elections and certified, and can step into that position without any additional training or accreditation or schooling or what have you, and run the elections. So, we find ourselves pretty much in a unique situation with this vacancy, that we have someone who's ready to step in. And, that, in my personal view, is extremely important in this particular case and weighs heavy on my decision. It's not always, you don't always have the ability to fill this type of position with someone who's actually has all the credentials and has been there before, so to speak. I think that bodes well for this particular candidate. Realizing, of course, that again, this is only whoever serves in this position only serves until the next election. So all the parties who are applying tonight, regardless of outcome, clearly they're able, and I would say encouraged, also to consider the election that's coming up that will ultimately fill the position of clerk for the rest of the duration, as this is just a stopgap measure. So that's something worth considering, I believe.
My concern is if she doesn't know that she would have to resign one, what would her answer be? Let's say she has to, let's say she had to resign it and she didn't want to, then where would we be?
Well, again, I think that one of two things. We could, I don't know if we could do a provisional. If we
No.
if can't accept it, then we do.
Where are you at in the 45-day process?
We still have time to appoint someone if that were the case, I guess, in the bottom line.
But
So,
right, we would have still someone, but then we have a clerk's office that has no one in there.
well, like we do now, but it would be
But this is one day.
yeah, it would be a few days, but what we would do is and again, I don't see that as an issue because, she hadn't spoken anything to the contrary. If it became an issue, we do have time, we have the window to appoint someone, so I don't see that as a roadblock, so.
I know that she, and back in 2016, is aware of this situation because she applied to be a trustee. When she found out about this, have to give up the other position to be trustee, she pulled her petition.
Well, we can't go back to then to explain today. I mean, that's just, it's not really relevant, so that's interesting information, but we really can't rely on that.
Well, she was aware of it back then.
Yeah, I think we have to take the application on its face, the person's interest in the position, and that's what we have to go on. So. Any other discussion? Okay, if not, there's a motion and a second on the table. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed to the motion?
Opposed?
Okay. Motion fails.
I move that the board appoint Jeremy Cady to fill the vacated office of clerk for the remaining days available, which thereafter will be decided by the residents in the upcoming 2018 November election.
Support.
All in favor of the motion?
Discussion, please. Council, am I even permitted to vote on this?
I think you have to vote on it. Yeah, there's nothing in the law that would allow you not to vote on it, even though you're being suggested for the position. The law is very clear that unless you're conflicted, legally conflicted, that you have to vote on all matters in which you're present.
So I'm not under any legal confliction?
Yeah, the only concern I have, and I didn't think about this, is our ethics ordinance. But quite frankly, our ethics ordinance doesn't trump state law anyhow. And I think that the revised Charter Act is pretty clear that members of the board need to vote if they're present and not legally conflicted.
So there is a penalty if I abstain?
There's no legal penalty. I mean, no one's going to come and put you in cuffs, but quite frankly, the law requires trustees to vote.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
I'm opposed. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Have a good evening.